So the live-action updated remake of Snow White isn't doing that great at the box office. Well, no one could have seen that coming, right? So this live-action film starring Gal Gadot and also Rachel Zegler as Snow White doesn't seem to have done particularly well around the world at the box office for the opening weekend. Just as a comparison, for example, figures I'm looking at put it just below Snow White and the Huntsman from the 2010s in terms of domestic gross. And up against any of the classic Disney movies, it's way, way down. Another thing just quickly to compare it to was the remake of Cinderella, which back in 2015, made by Walt Disney, had a budget overall of about 130 to 140 million, including the promotional budget, and it made back just over 3 times that amount. Now, it's not doing terrible, but it certainly isn't doing great, and a lot of people are just calling it a bomb. And given the controversy surrounding it, particularly the lead actress Rachel Zegler's comments about the original movie, the really ham-fisted attempts at promotion from her, constantly putting her foot in her mouth, starting out with what appeared to be no dwarves, and then moving to weird CGI Uncanny Valley dwarves, people really don't want another remake of a movie that's so beloved, that's taken into the collectivism kind of woke area. Initial preview reviews weren't particularly good. It hasn't got that great reviews at all on Rotten Tomatoes from the critics, and most are just saying it's a terrible movie, it looks really bad, and the only real good thing about the movie, surprisingly enough, is Rachel Zegler's performance, mostly due to the fact that she can hold a tune. It's also interesting because I've seen a couple of figures saying that the actual cost of the movie, because of the absolutely lengthy reshoots, has ballooned to upwards of possibly $240 to $270 million. And that's not including the budget for promotion, which can be anything to a third or to a half of that. So realistically, this movie would have to make at least 400 million to break even, but it wouldn't be considered really a hit or a success unless it gets somewhere near the $1 billion mark. Don't forget, this is Disney's flagship movie, really, if you think about it. This is one of the cornerstones of the Disney brand. This is such a beloved classic old movie. I imagine Disney's expectations would have been very, very big for this, especially as they've absolutely annihilated pretty much every franchise that they have. I mean, look at what they've done to Star Wars, look at what they did to Indiana Jones, and sure, while Star Wars, purely because of bringing on board some new fans and some old fans that decided to stick with it, the numbers seem to be pretty decent for that. But at what point are Disney going to start having to row back on this kind of collective woke agenda that they seem to be pushing? Rachel Zegler's comments about it not being a traditional movie where the heroine gets saved didn't really ring true with a lot of people. And okay, it's understandable if you want to remake it for modern times. There's definitely certain things you can update. I mean, you could even go as far as doing a parallel story in modern times and calling it a Snow White story, but maybe that doesn't have the cachet of the original Snow White title. There have been some changes, and again, you've got the usual bumbling male characters that just pushes that agenda that, you know, guys are bad and women are fantastic and can never do any wrong. The movie itself, again, it just looks really terrible. The characters are really badly CGI'd. The reshoots are pretty obvious. You can see where the story just doesn't make any sense. And a lot of it is just kind of either very odd sort of yellow filtered colours or just that horrible modern sort of grey washed out look. So all in all, it's not good looking. It doesn't seem to be particularly a good movie in any way, shape or form. So it's no real surprise it's not doing that well. And the question is at what point will Disney take enough losses for them to change course? It's going to take a change of leadership or maybe just more complete bombs. But nobody thought that this was going to be a big hit at any point. They even pulled the premiere from London and they downscaled the premieres elsewhere. So even Disney knew that because of this backlash that it was going to be incredibly, difficult for it to get anywhere. Well, you're making a modern movie, okay, and you're a bit trepidatious about putting dwarves in it, but dwarves are people too, and the actors need work. So there's a lot that they could have done here. And once again, Disney has just absolutely fumbled it. Now, I know that Rachel Zegler's young and she is obviously in this Hollywood bubble, but she must realise, or maybe no one's told her, that this is really going to have a serious impact on her career. I mean, she was riding high because of West Side Story, and then obviously, she must have thought this was going to be a really big deal. But she's kind of ruined it for herself, and when she looks back when she's older, she'll only have herself to blame, really. I mean, couple that with also the fact that she has come out as completely pro-Palestine, whereas Gal Gadot is completely, obviously, Israeli. So you have that clash too. I mean, all in all, this whole thing's been a little bit of a disaster for Disney. It used to be that people saw Disney and they thought, oh, okay, great, a Disney movie, it'd be fantastic. And obviously times have changed and that really isn't the case.